Welcome to the channel, Best Value Watches, where we look at timepieces of various price ranges and discuss whether it's really worth spending your money on them. Today we are having a look at the $25 dress watch from Casio, the MTP-V005L-7B3. I purchased mine from the guys from creationwatches.com. They're located out of Singapore. They are very legitimate. They're very much a trustworthy site. If you ever see something on there for a good price, definitely recommend checking them out. I understand it is a gray market dealer. This is not something that is going to give you the full manufacturer warranty, so keep that in mind. And unfortunately, the worst part about it is this watch has become ridiculously hard to find. Since I purchased this around a year ago, and it's just become insanely difficult to find. There's maybe some on eBay, maybe some on the 4th or 5th pages of Google. Definitely take a look. Try and find this watch. Or Casio's released a few other variants. There's actually one that I think looks brilliant. I wish I would have tracked this one down originally that you're seeing on screen right now, with a blue dial, silver hands, white indices / hour markers, and it just looks brilliant. I mean, it's the same case, but it's a blue dial. Who doesn't love a blue dial? There's a reason why blue is the top selling color out of really any of the main colors that you see. Blue is definitely the top seller, and I think that is because it just looks great on a variety of designs. So if you're interested, try and track that one down. Strongly recommend it. One of the other options that is out there also is it has a white dial, silver hands, but it's got black indices or black hour markers, and it's got this nice white dial, the same white dial that is on the one you're seeing right now, I believe. This is a pretty great option if you're thinking, I don't want some gold hands on my watch, I don't want a two-tone look, but I also don't really want a blue dial. Let's go for something it's a little different. You got the black on the white dial, nice contrast. When looking at the specs and dimensions of this watch, I really have to point out the first one, the biggest one, which is the fact that this retails at such a low price of $25. I should say, the price that I paid was around $25, and that seems very low to actually be able to get something that is a very good product for the money. I mean, I know I'm in Canada, our dollar's not worth as much, so if you're in the United States, this is going to be well below $25, so definitely try and get this. I mean, or pick up a few. These are so affordable. You could have multiple dial variants, multiple sizes, multiple designs. I mean, you could get all kinds of watches from Casio for ridiculously affordable prices that will indeed last a long time or even a lifetime. With a case constructed out of stainless steel, 316L stainless steel to be exact, this is pretty much the industry standard. This is something that you're going to see on majority of timepieces out of wide variety of price ranges. So keep that in mind. This is definitely not the best. This is not 904L stainless steel on a Rolex, but this is 316L stainless steel, and it's definitely far superior to, for example, Timex using brass with chrome plated at a similar price point. So thumbs up, Casio. You really killed it in that regard. Powered by a Casio caliber 5361 quartz movement. This is just your regular, reliable quartz movement. You're not going to have to really worry about this one much. You'll just have to change the battery every few years. Unfortunately, Casio hasn't put out a lot of information out there for people to really learn about the pros or the cons of these movements in particular. So keep that in mind. There's not a lot of info out there, but should be able to easily get a battery replaced at any watch shop. This is a pretty basic movement, pretty basic quartz movement. Low maintenance. It's really expected at this price point. It's really the regular thing that you will see at this price point. Also, just a flat mineral crystal for this because it's just a $25 watch. You can't expect the world for $25. That's just the reality. But it's really, I mean, the same as what you would see on a Movement or a Vincero watch for 10 times the price. So it's realistically, you can pay 3, 5, 10 times the price and go get a Movement or a Daniel Wellington, or you can get a Casio watch, which is elegant, looks far better, finished way better, and then on top of that, you're getting the same sort of specs for far less money, like way less money. Coming in with a 20mm lug width in 8.1mm thickness, a 40mm case diameter, and a 47mm lug to lug. For me, this thing's extremely wearable. It definitely wears smaller than 40mm for me. It's extremely comfortable, and I really haven't had too many issues with it in terms of the wearability. It wears perfect. If you have small wrists, it's going to look great still. If you have large wrists, it might look a little small, honestly. And only a 30 meters of water resistance on this watch, which for some may be a huge letdown, but for me, it's a $25 watch, as mentioned previously. You can't have super high expectations for something that is not a super high cost. It's a super affordable cost. So have some reasonable expectations here. It's only going to be 30 meters of water resistance, and the strap, in my opinion, was not great. It was some sort of a faux crocodile print onto a leather. I don't know if it was genuine leather. It seemed like a pretty cheap and stiff band that did not wear particularly comfortably. So you'll notice in the review, for the duration of the entire video, this will have just the rubber strap on, as I found that to be far more comfortable, and I just enjoy rubber personally. I think you can choose any color you want. It's more comfortable, so it's really hard to go wrong when you have a rubber strap, especially when that strap only cost you $9. Shout out to the store that I bought that from on AliExpress. $9 sale on a pretty decent rubber strap with quick release tabs. And I must say, that's really not too bad at all when you get a strap for $9, and it's actually wearable, it's actually comfortable, and in my opinion, definitely worth the price that they were asking. There's actually a really nice sort of extra padding right on the inside of the strap. On the very inside, there's a nice little extra built up, sort of bent inwards piece of rubber that seems to really add and contribute to extra comfort. Now, going over some of the pros or the things that I like about this watch, I want to start off with the most obvious one to me, which is the low price point, the ultra affordable watch. This is just unbelievable that they can make a watch this affordable that still wears comfortably. It still keeps good time. I believe it's within plus minus 20 seconds a month, which realistically that's perfectly fine. You're not going to have any issues with that. And in my opinion, this piece has really good legibility. The gold on top of that white really makes it stand out. It's easy to tell the time, even if you're just glancing down quickly at your wrist and you're trying to quickly tell the time without having to stare and figure it out and do the math, so to speak, when looking at your watch. Also, this thing has a brilliant, sleek case design, really good quality of finishing on it in my opinion, even though it is all high polish, which I will touch on in the cons section of this video, but even though it is all high polish, I think it looks pretty good. The quality of the finishing seems good. It doesn't have a bunch of ripples. It doesn't look inconsistent. Everything looks consistent and decently done, especially when you consider the affordable price that this thing is going for. And it wears so comfortable. I haven't had any problem with that at all. The second hand also appears to hit the markers around 80 to 90% of the time, I find. So it's far from perfect, but it's pretty good overall. I also find that this watch is a strap monster. I mean, this thing, you could put it on a variety of straps, whether it's leather, you could put it on a bracelet, you could put it on any color of rubber strap, all different stylings. I think the sky's the limit with this one. You could truly do anything with this watch in terms of put it on any strap, and it's pretty much going to look good on any strap. So it's a very nice addition to this watch, is that it just looks great on a variety of straps. You're not limited to one or two colors or styles. And surely, with a $25 watch, the list of cons is going to be atrociously big. It's going to be huge because there's so many things they can improve upon, right? Well, sort of. I mean, it's a decent cons list here, but I would say realistically most of these things are fixed with the increase in price. If they increase the price, they can increase the quality of the goods used inside and the finishing, etc. So starting off, for me, a few things that I don't like. There's a few things that just, they don't quite sit right with me, but they do, if that makes sense. It's not a big deal, but they are cons. They are things that could definitely be improved upon. Now, if you've ever owned a Timex watch or a Casio watch under that $50 mark, if you've ever owned something particularly affordable or on the affordable end of the spectrum, you'll probably know already what this first con is, and that's the fact that the ticking of the second hand is definitely audible. It's definitely something you will notice, but I think that there's levels to the loudness of ticking, if that makes sense. So a lot of people say Timex Expedition has the loudest tick. This is nowhere near that, I'd say. This is definitely noticeable. If you're in a very quiet room, you will hear it from across the room, depending on how quiet this room is. So keep in mind, if you hate the sound of a quartz watch just ticking away, you're probably going to have to keep this thing in the box or in something that shuts so you can try and trap that noise and minimize it as much as possible, because it's definitely going to annoy a lot of people. And I would say, due to the printed nature that is with the dial, the fact that the hour markers are printed and they're not applied, which is fair. You can't expect applied indices at a $25 price point. So that's fine. But as a consequence, sort of, or what happens because of that, is that there's a difference between the color of the hands and the difference of the indices on the dial. So keep that in mind. There's definitely a noticeable difference between them, and it kind of does bug me. There's a little bit of a difference. It's not like particularly noticeable, but it is. It's there, and you definitely notice it every time you look down on your wrist. And a 30 meters of water resistance snap-on case back. I mean, obviously, more water resistance is always going to be appreciated, but we can forgive Casio for this one, because realistically, at $25, you're lucky to get anything that's reliable or made out of stainless steel at all. And the last 3 cons, I'm just going to quickly sort of run through these last 3 cons because they're really small. They're really not that big of a deal at all to the majority of people. So the first one, it's a high polish case. All of it is high polish. It's all shiny, super shiny. So if you're not a fan of a super shiny case, super blingy case, if you think it looks cheap, look somewhere else. Turn off this video right now. I'm surprised you made it this far. Also, the stock leather band was just too stiff. It was not comfortable for me. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but it was definitely, I question if it was even leather at all, because it felt weird, it felt fake, it felt unusual. It was just something I'm not a huge fan of. Also, the last thing for me was just, it was kind of hard to make fine adjustments with that crown. When you try and turn it, it has a little bit of distance without turning the hands at all. So it's a little tougher to make those fine adjustments, but that's something that's pretty common on watches that are particularly affordable. So I wouldn't be looking at that as a deal breaker at all if you're considering this watch. So definitely don't let that get in the way. It's just something small to keep in mind. You got to be a little more careful when trying to make those fine adjustments to set the exact time. And my final conclusion, or my final thoughts on this piece, on whether it's really worth buying and where it sort of charts on value. How much value does this bring? How much value does this not bring? These are my final thoughts, and it's really that I think it's worth picking up. If you can find this thing at a reasonable price, definitely check it out. Check out some of the alternatives. If you can find those at a reasonable price, I think they're pretty good. It's definitely far from perfect. There's definitely cons. There's definitely things that a lot of people aren't going to like about this, but depending on who you are, depending on your priorities when looking at a watch, what matters the most to you, it might not be a big deal, or it might be a deal breaker. So I think for the average person, this is definitely not a deal breaker, these cons. These are pretty small. These are not really a big deal. I would definitely still recommend this piece. I think that it's got a reasonable value proposition. I wouldn't say that it sort of charts at the top or the bottom. It's somewhere in the middle. It's an affordable piece, and you get affordable specs for that money. You get more than other brands would give you, better materials. As mentioned, you're not getting chrome-plated brass like with Timex, which definitely annoys a lot of people. So I think it's great. I think a lot of people appreciate that Casio haven't taken too many shortcuts. They've definitely taken their affordable watches seriously, given them the longevity factor, the style factor, and the selection. If you don't like these, there's hundreds more out there that you could choose from. So final conclusion for me is definitely pick this watch up if it's your style. If this is something that you enjoy, pick it up, because this is, from what I could tell, getting harder and harder to find, and it's only going to be harder and harder to find in the future. So get your hands on it if you're wanting to. And that's about it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and also go ahead and leave a comment on anything that you think we could improve on, or any future recommendations on watches you'd like to see reviewed on the channel. Click subscribe for the future content. Click that bell, otherwise YouTube is not showing our videos to its subscribers. And thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you guys next time.